Action.
Welcome to the Leadership Launchpad Project. I'm Rob Calvarowski, and as always, the yang to my yin is here, Susan Hobson. Susan, how are you?
Yes. How am I? The real honest truth is I'm fine at half mast today. We just got word in my home that we gotta say goodbye to our 16-year-old fur baby Bella, our multi-sheep poo. But yeah, what a legacy she has left behind. She's the ultimate 2.0 leader in our books. I mean, anybody who met this dog was just instantly in love with her. She just was so effusively, unconditionally loving. And so I know that it's going to be a really hard transition, especially for Brooklyn. But yeah, I gotta say, I feel really, really just full of gratitude. Like that's sort of where I'm landing with it this morning, you know? How are you, sir?
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously dogs are incredible and um
Hmm.
it must be incredibly hard, of course, but it's that feeling of gratitude is if you can land there, that's an incredible space to be in.
Yeah, that's how we know we made it count on our Legacy 2.0 mission, isn't it? When we leave that
Absolutely.
ripple effect behind, and she's done that. I've been telling her this week and whispering in her ear, your mission's complete, baby girl. Your mission is complete. Mic drop. How are you, sir?
And as always, well, we have to start off with a quote. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have one here from Joe Dispenza, and he says, like feeding a plant or a garden, tend to your future every single day. And the delight that comes with that vision causes the brain to literally change over time.
I love this quote. I love Joe Dispenza. Tell our audience why you picked this one today.
Well, of course, I mean, one is we're huge on tending to our future and thinking about legacy and all these things, but we have our special guest with us who has done a lot of work on and with the Heart Math Institute. And so
Mhm.
we have Sanja Ralevic, resilience coach and founder of Heart Vista Performance. And you can check out her website, heartvistaperformance.com. Sanja, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Sending so much love to Bella as she
Oh,
transitions. I had the opportunity to meet her, and she is all of, as you said, so much love. But I'm
oh.
so happy to be here. Thank you both for having me on.
I know you knew Bella. She was our birthday twin. Sonia and I share a birthday amongst so many other things. So I'm so excited to have her in studio today. I think where I want to start is, yeah, just tell our audience a little bit about your background, who you are. We're talking about the 2.0 legacy mission here this morning. So I want to hear about that. Yeah, and what inspired you to go on this particular mission?
Yeah, so to answer that, I'm going to go back to where it all kind of started for me. My career began in big pharma, so I was really passionate about helping bring new treatments, new therapeutic areas to the Canadian market. And so
Mhm.
with my background in cellular biology, that's the line of work that I entered, and I loved it. I absolutely loved how dynamic it was, but at the same time, being in regulatory in my role meant I was always sort of in the middle of that push to get the next big profit-making drug approved for the company, right? And so it was stressful. But me being that typical type A personality, really, really results oriented, I was pushing myself on all levels, totally sort of disengaged and unaware of what that was doing to my body. And I ended up having really severe digestive issues. Ended up in the hospital for 2 weeks, being told that I need to have surgery, a really serious type of surgery. Yeah.
Mhm.
And my doctor gave me two options. He said, quit your job, find something less stressful to do, or be prepared for ongoing health issues. And, you know, I didn't like either of those options. I didn't want to give up my career. And, you know, when I think back, let me tell you, there's nothing worse than being sidelined when you want to be in the game.
Amen.
And I just remember feeling so devastated that that's where I was at. So, you know, I took it upon myself. I said, I don't want to give up my career. I need to figure out how to better manage my stress, right? And so I went out there, and actually part of my journey actually took me to Susan. And, you know, when I came to Susan, it was like, relationship with self, what's that? Self-awareness, that was not in my vocabulary. But it was anyone that's worked with Susan and Rob knows what a transformational journey that is. And, you know, it opened me up to trying new things. You know, I really did a deep dive into all of this sort of holistic practices of yoga and meditation, nutrition. But I knew from my type of work that I needed to find something, you know, that I could use in the moment to get on a handle on my stress. And that's when I discovered biofeedback and how to hack my physiology to be able to regulate in the moment. Because when I was going to be in a hectic, you know, sort of high pressure situation, I couldn't break out into downward dog. You know, I couldn't do a couple laps around the building to release my stress.
Yeah.
And so learning how to hack my physiology was a game changer for me. And I went back into the corporate environment. I was able to thrive and to perform even better than before, continue to advance my career, climb the corporate ladder, and just felt so much better doing it and kept my health intact. And so that's what I teach my clients, is that any high stakes environment, there is a way to be able to perform no matter who's in the room, no matter how much time you had to prepare. And it's so far, it's really fulfilling work.
And so, Sanja, you talk about hacking your physiology. Like, what does that mean for, yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, no, great question. So, you know, I'll answer this in a way that's really sort of applied, really hands-on. So when a lot of my leaders, when I work with them, they tell me, you know, I don't have stress, like, you know, the profits, the margins, the sales numbers, those are the problems. Stress and me, we're not the problem.
Yeah. So said every high achiever ever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, they think it's just part of the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we're living in the habits and the patterns that we find ourselves in, operating day in and day out, this kind of becomes a baseline that we operate from. And in these high performance environments, we can easily get addicted to that stress, in the sense that, you know, when we're in fight or flight, our adrenals activate, cortisol gets dumped into the bloodstream, and the adrenaline starts to jolt up, right? And we feel good, like the body feels good, and we feel like we can get more stuff done. So we want to run on that adrenaline, right? And that was me. Like, I love the timelines. I love the shifting targets. I loved having to be sort of always there and focused and available. That's what I was addicted to. And I didn't know it because it just felt like me, right? I didn't realize I was in stress because that was my baseline. And that's where I was operating from day in and day out. And so, however, our body as a machine is not built to operate for days, weeks, years in this state, right? And what starts to happen is the body starts to break down. And from the outside, things look good. We're accomplishing things. We're meeting our targets. But internally, our nervous system is really stuck in that gear of fight or flight. And so, you know, when I ask people, well, how do you, do you have stress? And they say, no. And I say, well, how are you sleeping? And they'll say, oh, not too good. I say, well, are you on any prescriptions? Yeah, of course. I got my blood pressure medication. I've got my anti-anxiety medication. And I tell them, well, do you know that those symptoms are a result from stress, right? They're a downstream result from stress. And we've been taught that, you know, we have to change our diet, we have to exercise, and all these things sort of external to us to bring that stress down. But we actually have the power We have the power inside of us to reset the nervous system and bring it back into balance, right? And this is what we call coherence. This is how we hack our physiology, by learning how to reset our nervous system.
This is what I want to dig deeply into, because I feel like this is resonating with all of our audience right now. Our leaders are up against it. The stress because of the economy, the stress because of everybody's burning out, left, right, and center, the stress because of innovation and AI and how disruptive that's going to be for our businesses and the way we do business. We got to get into this for these leaders who are resonating so deeply with this. So how is it that we actually hack into our coherence? I think you just called it. Let's break that concept down for our folks.
Absolutely. So I have a technique. I have an introductory technique I teach my clients. And, the best way to describe it is to experience it. So I'm going to ask if I can have a participant from the audience.
Rob, go. Rob.
I'm in. I'm stressed.
Okay, so I want to bring this, as I said, into the visceral, into an experience for you. And before we begin, I invite everyone that's listening to join us. But keep in mind, this is just like when you go to the gym for the first time and you lift a weight, you're not going to, have a big muscle to show off when you go out later that day.
Yeah.
So it does take practice. And so Rob, what we're going to do is I'm going to guide you to first go into a stress response. Okay, because I want you to notice how it feels in your body. And then I'm going to walk you through an easy to follow 3-step technique. And hopefully you'll be able to feel your body shift into this new gear of coherence or balance. Coherence just means balance. Our body is back into balance, into homeostasis. And I want to show you how just through your thoughts and where you direct your attention, you can essentially biohack your physiology. So we're going to do exactly what you asked about. Okay.
Sure.
All right. So it helps to close our eyes. When we do this, when we close our eyes, of course, our attention can go inward a lot more easily. So Rob, think of something stressful in your life that's going on right now.
Yep.
And let your mind really take you there. This is just for a moment. Just really experience it. And if you could share with us just the emotion that you're feeling.
I would say it's unsafe.
Mm.
I feel, in terms of my body, I feel a tightness in the chest and tingling in my hands and feet.
Mm. Okay. And you're right there, exactly where I wanted to take you next. What is your physiological reaction to stress? So it's a tightness in your chest and tingling. So now we're going to walk through the technique. I'm going to invite you to shift your attention to your heart and put your hand there. It's going to help you focus in on the heart area. And you're going to breathe in slowly and breathe out slowly. And imagine that this breath is flowing in and out of your heart area. And again, breathe in slowly and breathe out. So this is what we call heart-focused breathing. So now I'm going to invite you to bring up an emotion of either peace or joy or calm. And I'll ask you to feel it, really feel it, not just think about it. It helps if we bring up something that gives us either peace or joy or calm in our mind. And let me know when you have it.
Yep.
And now breathe this emotion. Keep your attention on the heart area and breathe this emotion in and out of your heart area. Breathing in slowly. And breathing out through the heart area. And now scan your body and see if the tension has loosened up a bit.
Yes.
And keep doing heart-focused breathing as you open your eyes. And keep concentrating on that breath flowing in through your heart and out through your heart. So, Rob, this is the power of coherence. You just shifted your autonomic nervous system into balance, and you felt the physiology change in your body. You didn't have to take a pill. You didn't have to go run a few miles. You didn't have to do a hot yoga class. Right now, you're in control of your own body.
Yeah.
And this is how we retrain our brain and our body.
Walk us through what the heck just happened there from a neuroscientific standpoint. I feel like I got to witness the state shifting in front of my eyes, and for our folks on YouTube, they got to see maybe some of that too. But I'd like to break this down into what just happened. Walk our audience through that.
So when I say we hack our physiology, what we're doing is we're influencing our heart rhythms. So our heart rhythms are directly related to the emotions that we're experiencing, right? And when we experience the depleting emotions of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, we see sort of an incoherent or a jagged heart rhythm pattern. That's what we experience in our bodies as, sweating, our throat tightening, the tingling that Rob was explaining, right? We start to feel that stress in our body. Now, once we start doing the heart-focused breathing, we're down-regulating the nervous system. We're shifting from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic. We're shifting from, we're the other way around. We're shifting from the fight or flight we're shifting into the relaxed, more calm state of a nervous system. And so that's the heart-focused breathing part of it. And what's that's doing is because the heart and the brain communicate, this is the really, really exciting part, is we always used to think that the brain was the head honcho, right? And we thought that the brain directed all processes within our body. But we now know that the heart actually sends more information up to the brain than the other way around. So the heart is actually our gateway. It's our ability to affect our nervous system and to down-regulate the stress. And so when we do that, right, when we get into a more coherent heart rhythm pattern, by starting to bring in more of these, we call it regenerative emotions, such as calm and peace and joy, whatever is accessible to you that day, right? Because depending on where we were just a moment ago, if we were having a really tough experience, a really stressful experience, we're not going to be able to go all the way to, bliss or even calm. We may just want to bring in the state of neutral. Right? But once we're able to do that and we start sending more coherent, more balanced signals into the brain, into the thalamus from our heart, what happens is the prefrontal cortex of our brain, right? You guys talk about this. It's the CEO of the brain. It's the part of the brain that makes all the decisions. It comes back online because it gets shut down when we're in stress response, because when you're in stress, you're either running or you're fighting, or you need your energy for more of those larger motor skills, right?
Mhm.
And so the prefrontal cortex is not operating in its optimal. But when we get into this coherent state, that's why we see all of the clearer thinking, better decision making. You're more focused, you're more creative. Innovation is more likely to occur because you're in a resourceful state. Coherence is really a resourceful state. It's your flow state. For all the athletes, it's your zone. It's being in the zone.
Mhm.
And that's essentially once we learn to do this, we can do it in the moment with our eyes open in a very high stakes situation without anyone knowing, right? Like Rob, when I asked you to continue doing heart focused breathing and experiencing an uplifting emotion, then you opened your eyes, you're back in the room. I can't tell you're doing that, right? But you're in a much better state to be able to deal with whatever comes your way.
Mhm.
Feel like this is leadership 2.0 neuroscience right here. It sure makes the case for why we are such fans of the heart-centric style of leadership. It turns out it actually is neuroscientifically the best way to lead, right? We're talking about being in a resourceful state. I feel like that's what keeps leaders in so much stress, right? Is like it's so hard to do optimal work, right? When you're in such an unresourceful state all of the time. And I think that is the recipe for burnout. Let's talk about this though, specifically because burnout has never been more rampant in human history, right? And we're just talking about how stressed our leaders are. And so clearly, this is why we're also seeing that ripple effect cascade down onto our people's mental health as well. So let's just talk about the connection. We're talking a little bit about it in terms of getting into flow but let's break this down for our audience in terms of how this impacts our mental health and the mental health of our people specifically.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, it's really a big, issue in terms of the workplace, whether you're in a corporate setting or an entrepreneur or you're a founder building up the culture of your startup. We have the financial cost of stress being estimated to be $300 billion annually, and that's just the US. I mean, this is taking into account, burnout, disengagement, retention, insurance premiums going up for organizations. And so, the culture of the business follows the culture of the leader. I think that's one of the main messages I really like to try and hone in on. And so leaders doing their own work is the most important thing any leader can do. And one of the leaders I worked with, his name's Nigel. He's a engineering executive, and he told me I could tell the story. So his team meetings, he came to me and they were really kind of dysfunctional, right? Lots of unproductive back and forth, a few hot heads on the team. And he said, but I was leading the charge in terms of hot heads. Like I was not the most sort of calm and understanding leader. And so he started working with me and learning these techniques, and he would practice in the meeting, eyes open. Right. And people noticed, they would say to him, like, you are so much more calm. Like, you never used to be like this. What is going on? But what happened is he had become so aware of when he was in fight or flight that he was able to shift his state in the moment, and he could get into coherence or balance, and it actually started affecting the room. Right. So what I practice with him is where he wants to take the room energetically. Right. When he's sort of grounded and in his state of balance, and with his thoughts and the questions that he's asking, able to guide his people toward a specific direction in that state of coherence. And that's mastery. That's true leadership, human-centric leadership, right? And the research shows that if someone can hold coherence, you can literally shift the brain waves of others in the room. that are with you into a more coherent state. Right. And I mean, there's a reason that emotional intelligence is the #1 skill that's necessary for leaders nowadays. Right. So, you know, when you're in that more balanced, grounded state, you're more able to sort of create the psychologically safe environment for your team.
Yeah.
And so you know, when people start to see this effect on themselves, the little light bulb goes off and they're like, ooh, like, what if we did this for my team? And really when we roll it out, sort of in a bigger group, in a team setting, you see all the benefits, but they're amplified, right? Because we're doing this now together. And there's, you know, congregate data in terms of rolling out this process to teams. We see 44% drop in fatigue, 52% drop in anxiety, 60% drop in depression, 30% improvement in sleep. And so, of course, this is going to affect the bottom line. Of course, this is going to improve your engagement. Of course, it's going to decrease burnout. And so people start, you know, leaders start to see that it starts to build the models of possibility for their culture. Right. And the culture begins to shift from the inside out, because resilient companies, resilient organizations are built on individual resilience.
I feel like that's a mic drop moment right there.
Sanja, if folks are listening out there and they're like, this sounds interesting to me, and maybe they are at least somewhat in tune that there is a lot of stress going on, because I mean, we all know like budgets are under attack, companies are laying off, you know, there's a lot of financial pressure as well as corporate pressure. Like, where should folks start to sort of get an eye on moving in this direction of resiliency and a team perspective?
Yeah, I think, you know, first is bringing that awareness into the mix, and being honest about what your team is experiencing, and not taking it personally, because I think a lot of the obstacles for leaders to start to implement changes within their organization is because, you know, it takes a certain amount of introspection and ownership of where your team currently is at, to then say, you know, if I am sort of at the top here and these are the issues being experienced, to some degree, I need to change. Right. So it's really, but when we take ownership, then we can really start to have those conversations, and we can really start to understand what the shifts need to happen, because it's in everyone's best interest, right? It's in the best interest of people as humans and their experience in your company. But we know that, you know, leaders that are taking this perspective, that, you know, have put aside the old command and control style of leadership, and they're taking the time to learn the skills needed to lead in a more heart-centric, heart-centered way. They're outperforming conventional old guard business like 10-1. You know, the research is in for at least a decade now. And those leaders are going to be the ones that are driving the heart-based cultures that are going to outperform the market.
This brings me to another question I have to ask you while you're in the studio. How can we use building heart coherence strategies in our leaders for their teams? How can all of that prepare us for what's coming in terms of the future of work?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the main thing is realizing that we need tools that are going to be there for us in the moment. You know, I had a really interesting experience back when all our meetings were in person, and I was pulled into a project for a new product that was being approved. by Health Canada. I had very little, I literally had a meeting to prepare for this, I had a week to prepare for this meeting, a huge amount of, clinical, non-clinical quality data that I needed to understand to be able to speak to Health Canada about this. And so our team of experts flew to Ottawa. We had our sort of panel discussion with Health Canada. And of course, at the Q&A session, who gets the first question? It's me. Was I prepared for this? 100% not. And, no matter how I wanted to sort of pass it off to one of my colleagues, like, hey, no, this landed in my lane. This was my area of, expertise, but not having known the product for a long time, it was a little bit off-putting. So having, learned how to recognize that I was going into my stress response, knowing that, I just needed to take like that inner pause, right? I took my inner pause, I took a few heart-focused breaths, and I was able to access parts of my brain that would have been locked off to me, right? And put together a response in the moment that was acceptable enough that the Health Canada reviewer would, gave me the okay and on to the next question. So this is, my point is that because the future of work is so unpredictable, it's so uncertain. There are advances, every week there's a new advancement, depending on what industry you're in. But most industries are being affected by this huge advancement in technology. Budgets, as Rob said, cutting, like there's so much uncertainty. We need to be able to perform without having so much time to prepare, right? No matter the amount of time you had to prepare, no matter who's in the room with you, no matter the environment that you're in, being able to harness that ability to self-regulate, to bring your nervous system back into balance so that you can utilize all the resources that your brain has for you. So you can perform your best, so you can make better decisions, because we all know what this does, right? This uncertainty, this fear that's in the economy, it's creating, or it's resulting in us making decisions from those places of deficit, of fear, of anger. And think about any experience you've had. If you make a decision from that state versus if you're in a more calm, more resourceful, more neutral state, the outcomes of your decisions in the past. So to me, that's key. Being able to stay nimble, being able to stay on your feet, and utilizing this beautiful technology, this beautiful brain and body that we have. No one teaches us. No one taught us. No one, when I went through my health crisis, there was no doctor that sat me down and say, listen, I want you to learn how to hack your nervous system so you can get out of this fight or flight.
That's a whole other podcast right there, right?
It is.
In terms of why aren't we taught these things? Our doctors don't even suggest them. I think that was the most infuriating aspect of my experience with my life-threatening disease, was like, they were like, okay, we can put you on this drug and this treatment and and here's everything you're not going to be able to do. But it was like, hello, like, where's the path that is going to empower me to affect change on my condition so that I can live freely, and manage my symptomology? I couldn't believe I had to go pay for that at a naturopath, but thank God I did, because it opened up this whole other world. There's so much we can do to manage our stress, and stress affects every single person listening to this show right now. But I feel like this right here, the heart coherence, this quick strategy you used to run Rob through that state management shift, this surely is something that every single one of our listeners can do. It's free. Let's start there. It doesn't take very long. And I mean, all you got to do is rewind the game tape on this show to see all the benefits that surely should lever that choice, right? To make space in our days to find that coherence. Sanja, before I let you go, what do you want the legacy of all of this incredible heart coherence mission you're on, this leadership 2.0 mission you're on in the world, to be someday?
Yeah, big question. Ultimately for me, I just want to tell people, as many people as I can, that they have the control to decide how they want to show up. You're in control of how you respond to your environment versus the environment being in control of you. And when you learn how your brain and body work together and you learn how to change your physiology, you can overcome so many things, right? And yeah, that's what I hope to continue doing, because I absolutely love it. Like, we can get back in the driver's seat, we can take back control, and life can just be so much better.
Amen, sister,
Amazing. And
preach.
for folks out there, of course, if you want to connect with Sanja, we've dropped her LinkedIn in the podcast notes, as well as you can check out her website, heartvistaperformance.com, for all of that. Sanja, is there anything else you're working on that you want to let our folks know about?
Well, I do want to let everyone know that if you enjoyed what we did here today, I did a little mini audio recording for everyone. So if you head over to my website and just input your email to sign up for the mailing list, you get it automatically emailed to you. And whenever you need a little bit more of a balanced moment, just plug and play. And feel free to reach out. I love just talking to people, having casual conversations, seeing where you're at. Yeah, I hope to hear from you.
No excuses,
Amazing.
folks.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely get that free. I'm going to get it.
Yeah,
But
Let's
get
all
that
get
free
it.
audio recording
Yeah.
and check that out. That's an amazing offer. And thank you, Sanja, for that. Now, of course, we have to land this plane. And Susan, where do you want to land folks with today?
I love this at the end where you're talking about how, if you're stressed, you're not in control. You're not at the helm in your self leadership, folks. And if you're not at the helm, you're not leading nothing. The stress is leading you. And then, as we learned today, your people too, because that model carries the most weight. And I just think we have no excuses now. Miss Sanja has left us with a free freaking audio. We don't even have to do nothing but press play and sit back in our office chair for 5 minutes. I mean, I don't even know how much easier we can make it for our folks, but hopefully we've inspired you to rep this one out, because I feel like that's where I want to land the plane. There's a big difference between intellectualizing the expertise coming out of this mic right now and actually taking time, like Rob did in the chair in the demo, to experientially try these things on for size. That's where the integration and the behavior modification lives. So no excuses, folks. If you're a 2.0 leader, this is definitely one you got to try on for size and add to the toolbox.
I love
How about
it.
you, sir?
Yeah, and obviously for us, if you enjoyed the show, hit subscribe to Leadership Launchpad Project on your favorite podcast platform, and share the show with any folks that maybe need a mindful moment in their life. Um, and obviously, for all things executive coaching, leadership development, and more, head on over to elitehighperformance.com. For me, this is something that we always talk about, which is we need to start leading ourselves, and leadership starts with us. And this is another piece of this, right? And if as Sanja talks about it, if we talk about it from IFS terms, it's self-energy attracts self-energy, or attracts other people, right? And there's no difference here in the meditation. I mean, the access point and the language is different, but basically it's the same, right? As we're accessing, instead of these parts that are controlling us, we're accessing self. And this is the magic. And so definitely check out Sanja's free mindful moment. For this, of course, we have a bunch of resources as well, but we need to take control and choose to show up in our best way. And that's where I want to land the plane. Sanja, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Thank you both for having me. It's been a real honor.
Everyone, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.